meeting of the San Francisco Ethics Commission. This hybrid meeting is being held pursuant to the 45th supplement to Mayoral Proclamation declaring the existence of a local emergency dated February 25th, 2020, which the mayor issued February 10th, 2022. The minutes of this meeting will reflect that pursuant to the February 10th Mayoral Proclamation, beginning March 7, 2022, city commissions and boards created by the city charter that are not advisory bodies shall hold meetings in person subject to conditions specified in that proclamation. As a charter-based commission that is not advisory, the Ethics Commission has now resumed in-person meetings in City Hall with a new hybrid format. Before we proceed further, I'd like to explain some of the procedures regarding the format of today's meeting. Members of the public may attend and provide public comment here in our meeting room in person, and may also observe the meeting remotely by electronic means, and are offered the opportunity to provide public comment remotely by phone or through the WebEx platform as detailed in our agenda. Please note that also pursuant to the February 10 proclamation, commissioners, members of the public, and any presenters, parties, or participants who attend an in-person meeting must comply with all applicable health orders, guidance, or directives from the Department of Public Health and the Department of Human Resources, and rules governing the use of the facility in which the meeting occurs. Under current city requirements, masks continue to be required in City Hall hearing rooms while meetings are in session. As a result, individuals present today in the hearing room will be wearing masks. Those who are participating remotely may appear unmasked. Today's meeting is being live cablecast on SF.gov TV and streamed live online at sfgovtv.org/ethicslive. And colleagues, it's wonderful to see your beautiful faces along with our staff and our Deputy City Attorney for the first time in 2 years. Now I'd like to ask our moderator to explain for our public audience how public comment will be handled in hybrid meeting format today.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Public comment will be available on each item on this agenda. Each member of the public will be allowed 3 minutes to speak. Comments or opportunity to speak during the public comment period will be made available in the meeting room, room 400, City Hall, for those attending the meeting in person. Comments or opportunities to speak during the public comment period are also being provided via phone call by calling 1-415-655-0001. Again, the phone number is 1-415-655-0001. Access code is 2481-629-7240. Once again, access code is 2481-629-7240. And then press pound, followed by the pound sign, and then press pound again to join as an attendee. For callers, you will hear a beep when you are connected to the meeting. You will be automatically muted and in listening mode only. When your item of interest comes up, dial *3 to raise your hand and to be added to the public comment line. You will then hear you have raised your hand to ask a question. Please wait until the host calls on you. The line will be silent as you wait your turn to speak. Ensure that you're in a quiet location. Before you speak, mute the sound of any equipment around you, including television, radio, or computer. It is especially important that you mute your computer if you are watching via the web link to prevent feedback and echo when you speak. When the system message says, "Your line has been unmuted," this is your turn to speak. You will hear staff say, "Welcome, caller," and we encourage you to state your name clearly. As soon as you begin speaking, you will have 3 minutes to provide your public comment, 6 minutes if you're online with an interpreter. You will hear a bell go off when you have 30 seconds remaining. If you change your mind and wish to withdraw yourself from the public comment line, press *3 again. You will hear the system say, "You have lowered your hand." Once your 3 minutes has expired, staff will thank you and mute you. You will hear, "Your line has been muted." Attendees who wish to speak during other public comment periods may stay on the line and listen for the next public comment opportunity, and should raise their hands to enter the public comment line by pressing *3 when their next item of interest comes up. Public comment may also be submitted in writing and will be shared with the commission after the meeting has concluded and will be included as part of the official meeting file. Written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Once again, written comments should be sent to ethics.commission@sfgov.org. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, moderator. Now I will call the meeting to order. We will proceed to item number 1, which is commission roll call. Colleagues, please unmute your microphone so that you can verbally state your presence at today's meeting after I call your name. Commissioner Bush. Unmute, please.
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Chu. Present. Commissioner Finlov has an excuse absent today. I am present. Commissioner Romano.
Present.
Just want to remind the audience that the reason why Commissioner Bush is not physically present with us is because under the COVID protocol, vulnerable persons are exempt from attending meetings in person. We hope to see Commissioner Bush joining us in future meetings. We now have a quorum. Let's proceed to general comments. Mr. Moderator? We don't need to have the public comment. To agenda item number 2, which is public comment on matters not appearing on the agenda. We don't have anyone present in this room. Therefore, let's proceed to moderator. Do we have anyone in queue for public comment?
Please stand by. Madam Chair, we are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. Madam Chair, so far we have 3 callers in the queue. Please stand by. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is Lois Scott, and I've been a resident of San Francisco for 42 years, and I'm proud to say I voted in every election in those 42 years. I am also a member of an informal group. We call ourselves the Anti-Corruption Coalition that's been trying to monitor good government issues, and it's very good to see you back live. I think we've benefited from as some of us are senior citizens or less mobile, benefited from the access to meetings that is electronic. Today, particularly as you salute service on your commission, we want to salute someone who did very good work, Peter Keene, and we want to make a special request related to independent expenditure committees. We think it's very important as voters who want a level playing field that you rein in independent expenditure committees and that you continue work in this area with more analysis and more proposed regulations. And of course, we commend your continuing work on behested payments, both on this ballot and hopefully on the November ballot. And we thank you very much for your work, and we're watching and we're cheering you on and have great expectations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please stand by. 2 callers in the queue. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mark Solomon. I'm a 33-year resident of the North Mission District in San Francisco. I've done work on a range of issues in the past, mostly policy issues, but over the past decade, Friends of Ethics trying to get the Ethics Commission to do a job to ensure that San Franciscans we get the honest government we're entitled to. We worked for a long time on restoring Prop J, on doing the Anti-Corruption Act with Commissioners Keene and Cobb and Rennie. But after years of doing this work, after going through the process, after hearing, at the very last minute, the rug was yanked out under the measure, causing Commissioner Keene to resign. He did the right thing. And it turns out that within a year or two later, the U.S. Attorney and FBI find that SF government is corrupt on the exact same behested payments that caused those votes to switch at the very last minute. And that's why we decided to form the San Francisco Anti-Corruption Coalition, because ethics was too narrow a focus when the appointing authorities from ethics have their own agendas. And we're trapped in a situation where the federal government's able to find these crimes and the local commission is essentially covering for them. And it didn't really seem to cause a problem, and now we're at the point where the corruption in government is laid bare. We all see it, and it's really time for San Franciscans to rise up, looking at our city around us and the shape it is in, to demand a government that meets our needs, not the needs of those who finance campaigns like recalls and things like that. So we're in a situation now where the progressives have been completely compromised by nonprofits. All we have are crypto swindlers, venture capitalists, and tech billionaires financing recall campaigns to veto San Franciscans, and there's no real effort there to do anything to raise us above this corruption. Kind of everyone's rolling with the flow. So what we're needing is San Franciscans to come together to say, no, we're not going to take it anymore. You're not delivering us the basics of government services, transit, parks, clean streets, housing, healthcare. It's all been pretty much a disaster. And that is because government is serving interests other than those of the voters and residents and citizens. And that's what we need to do. We need for this commission to stand up, become part of the anti-corruption coalition writ large, and do what it takes to ensure that we're not celebrating those who are standing in the way of honest government. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next caller, please.
Please stand by. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now. Welcome, caller. Caller, are you there? Okay, they lowered their hand. Please stand by. Madam Chair, there's no further callers in the queue.
Thank you. Hearing no further callers, general public comment under agenda item number 2 is now closed. I now call consent calendar, agenda item number 3, the draft minutes of the Commission's February 11, 2022 regular meetings. And Commissioners, I just want to remind you, if you wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. Commissioner Bush, if you wish to speak, please raise your hand so that we can recognize you. Any questions from the commissioners before we hear from the public? Oh, okay, let's go to public comment, please, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are checking to see if there are any callers in the queue. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have a caller in the queue. Welcome, call. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now. Please stand by. Okay. Individual's hand is up, but hasn't answered. Madam Chair, there's no further callers in the queue.
Okay, public comment is closed for agenda item number 3. Commissioners, do we have a motion to approve this agenda item?
I so move.
By Commissioner Romano,
I'll second.
okay, seconded by Commissioner Chu. Roll call, please.
Aye.
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 Aye. All right. Madam Chair, with 4 members present and voting, you have 4 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed. The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. Now we proceed to agenda item number 4, which is presentation for outgoing Commissioner Chu. Before we go to the actual presentation, I want to ask if my fellow commissioners would want to make any comments. Commissioner Bush?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'd like to acknowledge the work that Commissioner Chu has done for the past 6 years. She's added value to the work of the commission, and she's added value to the citizens of San Francisco. She's going to be missed because she brings intelligence and attention to the issues, which are invaluable in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bush. Anyone else? If not, Commissioner Romano?
I just want to say quickly that I've only been on this commission for a very short period of time, but it's obviously that you care a great deal about the work here, and it's 6 years is a long time, and it was nice to meet you, and I look forward to collaborating and continuing our relationship. So thank you for all the work and holding my hand in the past few weeks.
Let's go to public comment, please. Let's recognize the person in the room. Please proceed.
Hello. I would just like to acknowledge and thank Commissioner Chu for her service for the past 6 years. And as a matter of full disclosure, I'm her husband. So her first public service work, and our family appreciates the work that she's done and has given to the city. And just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you for sharing her with the city for 6
Yes,
years.
thank you for coming today.
Okay. Public comment, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have 1 caller in the queue. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Hello, my name is Sean McMorris. I'm with California Common Cause. I just want to recognize and thank Commissioner Chu for her years of good work on the commission. These ethics commissions are such a vital, vitally important part of the democratic process. And a lot of us in the good government field consider the San Francisco Commission to be not just the gold standard in California, but in the United States. So just really thank Commissioner Chu and wish her the best of luck. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
Please stand by. One more caller in the queue. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begin now.
Good morning. This is Debbie Lerman from the San Francisco Human Services Network. I just want to express appreciation to Commissioner Chu for your years of service on the commission, and just speaking as a member of the public who has frequently spoken before this commission and worked on some of its initiatives, I want to say how much we appreciate the leadership and the open mind that Commissioner Chu has always brought to our conversations. She has always taken the public's comments seriously and thoroughly considered what the public has to say before making her decisions. And we are deeply thankful for all the work that she's done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Checking to see if there's any further public comment. Please stand by. Madam Chair, there's no further callers in the queue.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed for this agenda item. I have the honor of serving with Chair Chu the past 4+ years. I have learned a tremendous amount from her, not only on the operations of the city's ethics rules and what have you, but most importantly, what it means to be an ethical leader. And that is something that I will carry with me. Thank you very much. Chair Chu was thrust into a leadership role in a very challenging time. She did not shy from the responsibility. In fact, she steered the commission and steadied it and continued moving forward to serve the city of and the people of San Francisco. 3 years ago, when San Francisco was rocked by the federal investigation, which really exposed the vulnerability of San Francisco's government in terms of corruption and other vulnerabilities, again, Chair Chu steely steered us away from the storm, and more importantly, to find, to charter in new territories that not only do we need to close the loopholes, but really to expand coverage to make sure San Francisco will truly have a clean, accountable government for the people of San Francisco. She's an inclusive person, always open to diverse opinions, always willing to listen to different ideas, but never stray away from her core belief and the core mission of what this commission stands for. And most importantly, she's always carried her work and reminded all of us that we're here to serve the people of San Francisco. Throughout her term, she has served this commission and most importantly, the people of San Francisco through grit and grace. For that, I am eternally grateful, and I know that people of San Francisco will join me in recognize you for a job beyond well done. We needed you in a critical time, and I join my fellow commissioners to say, while we miss you, I know that you will expect I'll continue phone calls to check in with you. With that, everyone to say a few words before I call on our executive director to join us up here.
Thank you, Chair Lee, and Commissioner, former Chair Chu, thank you for your service. I would like to read for the record the resolution that the Commission has prepared in honor of your service at the conclusion of your term. I can only add the deepest gratitude of the Commission staff, both past and present, for your commitment to doing the work that it takes, the hard work that it takes, never shying away from the hard work, and being a strong supporter, a strong corraller, and a strong visionary for us as we've gone through the last 6 years. It has been a very busy time, one where we have been transformed, I think, as an organization, and so much of that is due to your credit, your hard work, and your leadership. So I want to thank you on behalf of all of the staff for that. And if I might just take a moment to read the resolution. Whereas the people of the city and county of San Francisco have declared that public office is a public trust, and that the proper operation of the government requires that public officers be independent, impartial, and responsible to the people. And whereas the Ethics Commission has been charged by San Franciscans to impartially and effectively administer and enforce the city's governmental ethics, campaign finance, and lobbying laws, and whereas Dana Chu has served with distinction as a member of the San Francisco Ethics Commission since she was appointed by the city assessor recorder in April 2016, whereas she was elected to serve as Commission Vice President in 2017 and was elected by her fellow members to serve as chair in both 2018 and 2019, and whereas, guided by her leadership and practical vision, the Commission overhauled the city's public campaign financing program, established new regulations to strengthen its advice and enforcement functions, secured critical new resources to enhance compliance, and championed an elevated focus on education and training. And whereas her tenure as chair was distinguished by her co-presiding at the first ever joint meeting of the Ethics Commission and the Board of Supervisors in 2018 to enact the Anti-Corruption and Accountability Ordinance. And whereas Commissioner Chu this month is completing her full 6-year term of office, therefore be it resolved on this 18th day of March 2022 that the San Francisco Ethics Commission acknowledges and honors Dana M. Chu for her leadership and her unwavering commitment to integrity and accountability in San Francisco city government. Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. I am speechless at all of the well wishes and kind thoughts from everyone, and I'm deeply grateful for this opportunity to have served San Francisco and to contribute to the strengthening and further transparency and accountability of our city government for everyone in San Francisco. And my work would not be possible without the incredible efforts and diligence and expertise of staff under Leanne, Executive Director Pelham, and the collaboration and incredible thoughtfulness and dialogue that I have with my fellow commissioners at every meeting, as well as the steady, thoughtful, and practical, and very insightful advice from our partners in the City Attorney's Office, especially Deputy City Attorney Shen, and everyone else in the Ethics Commission who make these meetings possible, from our wonderful moderator, Mr. Contreras, and the unsung heroes in compliance and enforcement and engagement who really make ethics come to life and meaningful in San Francisco. And so it is with great pleasure and sorrow and bittersweetness that I end my tenure today. But I have stood on the shoulders of giants, and am really grateful for the honor of having served. Thank you.
Commissioner Romano, you want to join us?
Oh my goodness.
Commissioner Bush, we are representing you. We're saving you a spot here in the middle.
I'm sorry, am
Can you
I
see-
okay?
Yeah, can you see us? We have a spot for you right here.
Yes. It's the empty chair spot.
Is it okay if we take off our masks for this?
Photo op?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot see.
You want me to read it?
Yeah.
Yes, would you mind? The microphone maybe so it's audible?
Sure. So I'm reading this plaque that says, "In gratitude and appreciation for her commitment to public service that builds on public trust." Congratulations, and thank you again for being my guidepost, and wish you all the best of luck. Thank you. Of course, of course.
Oh my goodness, this is Miss Epic. You could wave now. Wow.
Oh, yes. All right.
Okay.
You got it?
Thank you. Come up to it because.
Do you want to share?
Thank you for the flowers. They're beautiful.
It's a personally very sad day for me. But anyway, let's proceed to agenda item number 5, which is discussion and possible action and proposed amendment to Commission Bylaws, Article 7, Sections 4, to change regular starting time of Ethics Commission regular meetings. This is a proposed resolution to make changes to our commission meetings from 9:30 to 10 o'clock. Do we have any discussion? Commissioner Bush?
Now, am I
Yes.
being heard? Okay. Yes, I think that the 10 o'clock start time is more user-friendly than the 9:30 that we've had. And I think that it's going to allow people to participate more fully than at the earlier hour. It's possible that we might revisit this and make the time start in the afternoon as it did once before. But we're being sensitive to the fact that people have to go to work, they have to get their kids off to work and to school. And so 9:30 just too difficult to accomplish all of that. So that's my comment on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Bush. We have no more discussion among the commissioners. Let's open up for public comments, please.
Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair. We are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. Madam Chair, we have 2 callers in the queue. Please stand by. Thank you, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now. Okay, she is. Please stand by. The caller did drop. Please stand by. One caller remaining. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
I apologize, I forgot to lower my hand.
No worries. Thank you. Appreciate it. Madam Chair, there's no further callers in the queue.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed. Before, no, I'll say that after we approve. Do we have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Chu, seconded by Commissioner Romano. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Bush,
I think he said aye.
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 Perfect. Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Chair Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Romano.
Aye.
Madam Chair, with 4 members present and voting, you have 4 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed. The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you. The motion is approved. The meetings from but before we go to the next agenda item, I'd like to ask the executive director, because of the continued concern from my fellow commissioners on the lack, a limited participation from the public, partly because of the time. I like to, number one, remind the public that our meeting time is dictated by the availability of the meeting rooms. So I would like to ask the executive director to continue to look at potential openings for these meeting rooms, specifically for the next year, so that if there are other meeting time blocks available in the later afternoon, not on the Friday, that would be great. I remember we used to meet around
Mondays at 4 or 5.
5 o'clock, and we used to have a lot more participation from folks who need to work. And because we changed the meeting to the morning, it's pretty evident that they were unable to attend. So if we can ask the executive director to continue to monitor the availability of these meeting rooms. And in the meantime, I'd like to remind the public that even though the meeting is supposed to be starting at a certain time, but the deputy city attorney has advised that as long as we give ample advance notice, we can always change the meeting time if the meeting room is available. So we're not completely set for these times. If it's called for that we need to meet in a later time to accommodate more participation, we certainly can have that option. Again, it's really key that we have public participation because policy cannot be made without the voices of the people. So with that, let's move to agenda item number 6, which is presentation, discussion, and possible action on proposed amendments to strengthen city's gift and ethics laws under consideration as 1, potential ethics commission ballot measure, and 2, as amended ethics commission regulations. Do we have comments? We have comments among commissioners. Commissioner Bush, did you have your hands up?
And Chair Lee, we also have staff available for a brief presentation if that's of interest to the commission. Michael Canning is joining us remotely if that's at the commission's
Okay.
preference. Thank you.
Commissioner Bush, do you mind holding off your comments until we hear from staff?
That's fine.
Okay. Mr. Canning?
Yes, thank you, Chair Lee. One moment, let me share my screen. Excellent. Can folks see my screen all right?
Yes, I can see you.
Excellent. Yes, thank you, Chair Lee, and just like to add that privileged to be presenting before Commissioner Chu for the last time today. I've really appreciated working with you over the last year, and appreciate the passion and commitment you bring to the work of the Commission. So today I'd like to briefly provide an update on the Government Ethics and Conflict of Interest Review Project and present some revised recommendations to the proposed ballot measure and regulation amendments.
Excuse me, Mr. Canning. Are you sharing your screen? I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on what your question was.
I am. Yes. Is there a slide visible?
Oh, yeah, no, we can
No.
only see you. We can't see the slide.
Interesting. Let me see what the issue with that is.
We are checking to look like Zepka was checking it on their end also. There you go.
Oh, how about now?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes.
Okay. Yep, I think that was a user error on my end. Yes, so for an update on revised recommendations to the ballot measure and regulation amendments that the Commission has been considering, so that the Commission can provide feedback on the concepts before language is included in future versions of the measure and regulation amendments. To start off as a... Yeah. So to briefly review, in September 2020, the Commission identified a review of the city's conflict of interest rules as a top policy priority. This project was seen as essential in light of the ongoing investigations into alleged corrupt activity by numerous city officials and contractors that have been revealed over the last 2+ years. These allegations demonstrate an alarming level of unethical conduct in and around city government and its decision-making processes. This project has sought to learn from the findings of various investigations, staff research, and stakeholder engagement to identify improvements to ethics laws and programs to prevent future instances of corruption. This project was broken down into 3 phases, the first of which dealt with behested payments. A report was issued in November 2020 that eventually led to legislation passed by the Board of Supervisors, and new rules went into effect from that legislation in January of this year. The second phase of the project addressed gifts and was broken into 2 parts. The first was gifts to individuals, with a report presented to the Commission in August 2021. Second part of that was in gifts through departments, which was presented in October 2021. And the third phase was on essential ethics provisions and led to a report presented to the Commission in December of 2021. And it's these last 2 phases of the project that recommendations were folded into a ballot measure and draft regulation amendments that the Commission has been considering since December. And as far as an update, the meet and confer process is ongoing. State law requires that the city meet and confer with employee bargaining units before taking certain actions that would impact city employees. And DHR and the City Attorney's Office have advised that the changes made by the measure and regulation amendments proposed would qualify for the meet and confer process, and that process needs to be concluded before action can be taken. Staff began this meet and confer process on November 10th of 2021 and first met with the Municipal Executives Association on the package on November 17th of 2021, and staff has had 4 additional meetings with MEA since that initial one, the most recent of which was this past Monday. And yeah, as of today, the meet and confer process has not been concluded, and staff is continuing to prioritize working with DHR and MEA to engage in and complete this required process. This creates a revised timeline for potentially placing the ballot measure before voters. The ongoing meet and confer process has prevented the commission from voting since December, which meant that the deadline for placing something on the June ballot was passed on March 4th. The next available time to present the ballot measure to voters would be the November ballot, which has a deadline for submission by August 5th. So after today, there will be 4 commission meetings currently scheduled where the commission could potentially vote to place this measure on the November ballot. And as we move forward, staff will continue to engage with the stakeholders and, as necessary, make revised recommendations to the commission, which is what I have for you today, is some revised recommendations based on feedback we've received in recent months through engaging with stakeholders and getting revised recommendations. There are 2 revised recommendations for the draft ballot measure and 2 for the draft regulation amendments. They're being presented today mostly as concepts with some draft language in the attachments to the memo shared with the commission, with the goal of getting feedback from the commission on these items. If the revised recommendations are supported, they would then be integrated into future versions of the measure and regulation amendments, which would then come back before the commission before a final vote before being sent to the ballot or otherwise finalized. The first recommendation is to remove liability for restricted sources who give unlawful gifts. This item has been discussed at several recent commission meetings and is a concept supported by several of the stakeholders that we've heard from. The initial proposal here was to extend liability on the giving of restricted source gifts, which would potentially expose the gift giver to administrative penalties for the act of giving the gift. Staff heard concerns that this proposal would potentially overreach and ensnare members of the public who would be unaware of the rule. This revised recommendation would be to get rid of that giving liability. Excuse me. And so with this change, the same gifts would still be prohibited. It would just be the city officials who would be potentially subject to penalties for soliciting or accepting those gifts. So the same transaction would be prohibited, but the giver of the gift would not be liable for those. With the exception of lobbyists and permit consultants who would still be able to face potential penalties for giving a gift. And I'll just point the commissioners to a letter of support from Common Cause, which I believe was shared yesterday, expressing support for this change. The second revised recommendation is to revise how the seeking, obtaining, or possessing of a license, permit, or other entitlement for use can make a person a restricted source. The original proposal was to include licenses, permits, and other entitlements for use under the doing business with prong of the restricted source rule, which is currently the way contractors are treated with the restricted source rule. And that would make a person who was seeking, obtaining, or possessing a license, permit, or other entitlement for use. It would make them a restricted source for the entire department. However, we've heard concerns that this would be overly broad in the rule and also make it difficult for city officials to comply with, since many officials are not necessarily involved in the issuing of these items and wouldn't be aware of them. For example, if you work in HR for a department, you wouldn't necessarily have a window into what permits are being considered or approved through your department.
Through the chair, may I ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
From persons requesting, yeah.
Mr. Canning, can you hear me?
Yes.
I had a question about this revision to the seeking, obtaining, or possessing a license. So, what is that? What does that look like? Is it that the restricted source will be eliminating this, or is it narrowing or further refining the definition of what seeking or obtaining or possessing a license, what criteria would be used to determine whether or not they are a restricted source?
Yeah, I can walk through that in my next slide, kind of goes through an
okay.
example of what that would look like.
Thank you.
So I can, I'll circle back on that. But yes, so the idea was initially to just, people were suggesting that we just narrow it so only high-level licenses, permits, and entitlements for use trigger the restricted source rule. However, that would still leave open the potential that, an action award by an employee an employee could still be receiving a gift from someone when they're working on a license, permit, or entitlement for use, which I think does create a hole. So the revised recommendation is that instead of all licenses, permits, and entitlements for use falling under the doing business with prong, only those approved at a high level would. However, all persons seeking, obtaining, or possessing a license, permit, or entitlement for use would be restricted sources for the city officials who were involved in the issuing of such items. So it's both a narrowing of the doing business with prong, but then a focusing of the rule on the individuals who are actually involved in reviewing and approving these items. So to kind of walk through this as an example, let's take a permit. So a person applies for a permit with the department, and then the question is that permit approved by the department head, the department's board or commission, or the board of supervisors? If the answer is yes, then the person would become a restricted source for all of the city officers and employees of that department, the same way that a contractor is considered a restricted source for all of the officers and employees. If the permit was approved at a high level by the department head, the commission, or the board of supervisors, same thing, restricted source for all of the officials in the department. However, if the answer is no, and it's not approved at this high level, then the person would become a restricted source only for the city officers and employees who are personally and substantially involved in that permit process. So this would, like I said, kind of narrow the overall doing business with prong, but then focus in on the city officials who are personally and substantially involved, so the person is clearly a restricted source for them. Commissioner Chu, does that clarify what you were asking?
Yes, that does. Thank you very much. I think that is very tailored to the situation where, so the city employees, who are involved, whether at a high level or not, become are prohibited from receiving, or that those who are seeking the permits and the official decision from those decision makers would become restricted sources.
Correct.
Mr. Kenny,
Yes.
how do you define substantially involved? For instance, if someone works at the front desk that receives the application, would that person be considered substantially? Because that person would have the power of making sure that that application gets to certain desks.
So the term personally and substantially involved is a term already used in section 3.234 of the code, and which deals with post-employment restrictions. So we do have regulations that define what personally and substantially involved means. Participate means to participate directly, which includes the participation of a subordinate, if they're under the direction of a supervisor or employee. And participate substantially means that the officer or employee's involvement is or reasonably appears to be significant to the matter. And then another kind of layer, significant to the matter requires more than official responsibility, knowledge, or perfunctory involvement, or involvement on an administrative or peripheral issue. Participate substantially relates not only to the effort devoted to the matter, but also the importance of the effort. So while a series of peripheral involvements might be insubstantial, the single act of approving or participating in a critical step may be substantial. So to your hypothetical, I would think if the person at the front desk is just sort of as a matter of process taking the envelope and funneling it to the proper person, that probably wouldn't be personally substantially. I think it would, kind of depend on, what that person is doing, and if they are, are they part of the review process? Do they have discretion? Are they, are they kind of making a decision related to it, or are they just taking the form and delivering it to the permit office? So that'd be the question there.
Thank you.
Great. So moving on to otherwise recommendations. These are the two for.
Hello, this is-
yes. Mr. Bush?
Can you hear my question?
Yes. Yeah, I can hear you.
In the process of a permit, sometimes a permit is issued and then a neighbor or other person may file a complaint against the issuance of the permit. At which point, does that then trigger it to a higher level? Or most traditionally, that's still resolved at the staff level, so that a complaint is made that, in fact, a secondary unit is actually not something that be allowed to be permitted, so there'll be an inspection that will take place, and the complaint will either be regarded as meritorious, or else it will be dismissed as resolved. But that doesn't ever go to the point of the Board of Supervisors or the department head. So at what point does it take place that you're trying to influence the outcome of that complaint?
I think based on what you're describing, that would expand. It would still be in kind of the no category presented here. But it would expand the number of individual officers and employees who are personally and substantially involved. So if it was just before, it was the initial kind of permit approval process, but then there was a complaint and an additional review needed to take place with another division or with other employees. Then those employees would, become involved in the process, and the person seeking the permit would become a restricted source for them as well.
So just to clarify, it's not just the person who is seeking the permit, but people who might be opposed to the permit who would become a restricted source? That's what I believe Mr. Bush was asking.
Yes, that's the question I'm raising.
Oh, okay. So, sorry, I did not follow that. I need to, I would need to research that a little bit more and consider how that would apply. I don't have a clear answer right now.
I mean, in addition to a private home permit, there are questions being raised about permits for relay boxes on corners that are being sought by AT&T and other companies. And some neighbors are complaining that they don't want those because they block parking or whatever it is. And so it can be a question that has to be resolved from a corporate level and not just an individual homeowner. So, in other words, it becomes more complicated when you look at, as Commissioner Canning just pointed out, Commissioner Romano pointed out that when an opposition to a permit is filed, how does that expand the process that you're looking at?
Yeah, I can actually say with that it wouldn't necessarily trigger them being a restricted source if someone's opposing a permit. They wouldn't become a restricted source under this prong. But if they were, if they were attempting to influence a city officer or employee, that's also another pathway to becoming a restricted source. So I would think that if someone is attempting to influence a city official to revoke or deny someone else's permit, that would probably be the pathway for them to become a restricted source, would be that act of attempting to influence. whereas this language is more about the person that is seeking, obtaining, or possessing the permit themselves.
So what does that mean in practice?
It seems to me that it means in practice that the person who is opposing the, correct me if I'm wrong, who would be opposing the permit would be seeking to influence a public official and then would become a restricted source.
And by being a restricted source, what are the consequences of that?
Same as any other, I presume, restricted source.
Yeah, they'd be prohibited from giving gifts to the official that they've attempted to influence.
And if they did give a gift, are they still liable? Because
That was,
you're changing the liability to no longer apply except to city officials. So is there no liability for a restricted source seeking to influence by giving a gift?
Correct. There would not be. It would be on the city official to not solicit or accept such a gift.
But what, all right. It seems to me that we're better off just retaining liability for the giver as well as the recipient. But that's an issue that we've got before us now, right?
Yes, yeah, that's recommendation 1 here.
Perhaps,
Shall I?
if I may, perhaps for recommendation number 2, it can be clarified that persons seeking to influence the seeking, obtaining, or possessing of a license. Maybe that would solve at least some of Commissioner Bush's concerns. Might be redundant, but would seem to accomplish the concern.
I think that clarification is helpful because it then identifies the activity of the person who would be trying to block the permit. It's not just objecting, but taking action in furtherance of those objections to try and influence the outcome.
Yeah, we can definitely look into that and how that would could be added. Great. So just to move on to the regulations. Revised recommendations here would be to add a gift exception for greeting cards, which is something that in staff's interpretation would be that a greeting card isn't really a thing of value and would not necessarily trigger the restricted source rule as intended. But this was an item that's been brought up by stakeholders multiple times in recent commission meetings. So the recommendation here would be to just add it as an exception in the regs so that it's clear and in the same place with other gift exceptions, and folks can see that accepting a greeting card from a restricted source wouldn't trigger a violation of the restricted source rule. And similarly, adding another gift exception for things that are available to the general public at free or discounted rates, and these are things that are available without regard to the city official's status as a city official. Again, this I think just lines up with our understanding of what a gift is.
Can you explain the discounted rates piece of
it's
this?
easier and for clarity's purpose.
Excuse me, can you,
There's a question from Commissioner Romano.
can you explain what the discounted rates mean?
Yeah, so if Pete's Coffee is having a buy one get one free sale, or a mattress retailer has a 25% off Labor Day sale, you as a city official could purchase that mattress at that discounted rate.
Got it.
And that would be
They're
not getting anything
They're not getting
special
special discounted rates. It's just discounted rates that are available to the public.
To the general public.
Got it.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, and so again, that's one of the things that we would not consider to be a gift based on the definition of a gift, but for clarity and for city officials to be able to look at the regs and say, okay, here's the complete, list of things that are not gifts. Seems like it's a helpful thing to add in here, but I think substantively we're not actually, giving a new exception. This is more of just a clarification to current interpretation.
Makes sense.
And yes, I wanted to provide an update on the
Can
master payments.
I go back?
Yes. Yeah.
before we leave that topic. We talked about an exception for greeting cards, but as many of us know, there's a tradition at different occasions, like Chinese New Year's, where people receive a greeting card, a red letter, a red card, and the red card will often have some money in it. So does the gift exemption on greeting cards include greeting cards that include a gift inside of it?
No, definitely not. It is the card itself. If you stuff cash in the card or a gift card gets included or anything like that, that would still be a gift.
And greeting cards that are actually works of art and have a value?
I mean, I guess. I mean, I think one idea we've talked about for that would be to specify that it's. I don't think it's actually made it into the draft language presented in the attachment, but would be to say personalized greeting cards, so that way there's a personalization. If your name is on it, that kind of would get rid of the or diminish the resale value. But yeah, I don't know if greeting cards as art that could then kind of convey a personal benefit beyond just the receipt of the card. Yeah, not too familiar with those or that being a common occurrence.
My experience is that I've seen a number of examples of those, and they are of high enough quality that people frame them and put them up in their homes. These are not Hallmark cards.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, we can explore that further.
It would seem to me that it's a card that's been that is considered a work of art, as opposed to a mass manufactured card.
I think we didn't go into this because in addition to store-bought cards, public comments have suggested there may be cards created by children, seniors in appreciation of, certain activities. So I think it's rare. It could happen. But I think that when we talked about greeting cards, that's what the public comments were saying, that these are the cards specifically tailored to the recipients. It had no other value except, a show of gratitude. But, since Commissioner Bush has brought up that, maybe people may want to include, a piece of art worth $1 million inside the envelope, inside the greeting cards.
Perhaps we can.
Just don't.
I'm sorry.
I've raised the issue because I've seen it. To me, it's not hypothetical, and particularly you see it when someone is sent a greeting card as an invite to a fundraiser or a special celebration, and an artist has been paid to develop cards for that purpose.
Right.
And they are beautiful and keep-worthy. So the phrase greeting cards, I'm just curious as to why that's coming from the people in the meet and confer process. They must have something in mind other than a Hallmark card that they bought at the store.
Here's my suggestion. Somewhere we're going to have to define what a greeting card is. I don't think that definition has been made yet. But in any event, I would suggest that it has some dollar value, retail dollar value that should not exceed some reasonable number, and that's it. Included in the definition of greeting card.
That works for me.
And just to clarify, this was not stuff that was coming out of the meet and confer process. These were comments
Yeah,
made at
public
previous
comments.
meetings regarding greeting cards. But yes, we can continue to refine and clarify that one.
I think they
All
were
right.
from the nonprofit community service organizations who were concerned that, their service recipients would not be able to show the gratitude through paintings, finger paintings from kids or, knitted caps from seniors, because those may not have a monetary value, but it means a lot to the participants of those centers. And I do think that, they don't have a monetary value, but they really meant a lot for the givers. So I think that we need to find a way to recognize that and make sure that those will continue, because you're right, those comments did not come from the employees, they came from community-based service providers.
And I think that makes perfect sense, and I don't want to limit these at all. I think that we can address Commissioner Bush's concerns about secret monetary
Yeah.
gives, but keep community engagement with public officials, which is, of course, what we want to encourage.
I certainly don't want to curtail finger paints from kids.
Okay.
So just to provide an update on passive payments legislation. The Board of Supervisors recently placed a measure on the June 22 ballot, which would do two things. This is going to be Proposition E on the June ballot, and it would require all future legislative amendments related to passive payments be passed by a majority vote of the Ethics Commission and a 2/3 vote of the Board of Supervisors. And it would expand the prohibition on the solicitation of passive payments to cover city contractors seeking approval from the Board of Supervisors. Both of these items are pretty close in alignment with previous recommendations staff has made to the commission, and that's kind of what this ballot measure would do. Is these two pretty narrowly defined items.
Mr. Canning, this is Commissioner
Yes.
Chu. Question about the first change. It's would require a majority vote of the Ethics Commission, not a supermajority vote?
Correct. That is one of the discrepancies between what staff has recommended in the past to the commission. On this would be to have a supermajority vote,
But a
this
supermajority
measure-
vote, from the Board of Supervisors.
Correct. Yeah. So that's a bit of a discrepancy from what is being proposed in the ballot measure. The other ballot measure that's being proposed for the other chapters, which would be a supermajority of the Ethics Commission. This would be just a majority.
Okay, thank you. Do you have any insight or background on why it was majority versus a supermajority vote requirement?
Yeah, not really really sure what the rationale was there. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and so we wanted to make the commission aware of this measure that'll be on the ballot, and also just in terms of a general update, staff has continued to be in communication with the Board of Supervisors on the new behested payments rule, helping look at feedback that the supervisors have been receiving related to the new rule, which went into effect in January, and is continuing to have those discussions to see if there are issues that need to be clarified related to the behested payments rule. So next steps, staff will continue working with DHR and MEA to conclude the meet and confer process. As revised recommendations are developed, they'll be presented to the commission as the ones were today. And right now, feedback from the commission and the public is sought regarding the revised recommendations presented today, some of which we've already received. This item was agendized for action, so potential action could be voting to support the revised recommendations either as they're written or with qualification. However, that's not necessarily necessary. Feedback could also be just shared as it has been already by individual commissioners, and then those could be worked into future revisions, because anything changed today would go before the commission again before being in a final version of the ballot measure or final reg changes. So these are mostly presented as concepts, so the commission can decide how it would like to weigh in or otherwise provide feedback on what was presented.
Through the chair, for the meet and confer process, Mr. Canning, have meetings, I think the last meeting was in February or January. Have there been additional meetings, and are more meetings scheduled going forward?
The most recent meeting was actually this Monday, and we're still waiting. I'm sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to stop sharing my screen. Ouch. It's not what. Oh, yes, thank you, whoever did that. Yeah, the most recent meeting was this Monday, and we are working to schedule, both working to get written clarification on some of the items discussed on Monday, as well as to figure out what the approach is for the next meeting to resolve the outstanding issues.
Okay, so I hope that regular meetings can be scheduled going forward, as the August 5th deadline for the commission to be able to act to place this on the ballot will come sooner than we all think.
So Commissioner Chu, would you like to make a motion to direct the staff to continue the current negotiation process and outreach process toward a November 2022 ballot measure, and then to continue to direct the staff to work on some of the recommendations that was made today, and come back every month with an update report?
Yes, I would like to make that motion.
Okay, motion made by Commissioner Chu, seconded by Commissioner Romano. Let's go, if there's no other comments from the commission, let's go to public comment, please.
Can I be heard?
Oh, my apologies, I lost you. Okay.
That's, all right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, I would like to amend Commissioner Chu's excellent resolution to include the staff provide a list of what proposals have come from the meet and confer participants compared to the proposals that have come from the ethics staff and commissioners, so that we can see side by side the level of involvement and participation and what it amounts to in both the union and city employee side versus the commission side.
I'm sure if I could speak to that briefly.
Yes.
I think we might run into issues of confidentiality. The meet and confer process is a confidential process, so I think fully publicizing what issues are being discussed in that process might run into issues there. And I don't know if Deputy City Attorney Shen has comments on that, or we could also discuss that with DHR at a closed session, how advisable they think it is and what we could share and not share.
And also I want to remind the public that we can hold public, confidential sessions to discuss these matters, but whatever is being discussed, it cannot be disclosed unless there's a vote. At this point, I do want to ask our Deputy City Attorney Shen, number one, to give us again the specific timeline if we were to place a ballot on the November ballot. But at the same time, I'm looking at, okay, we now have 4 more meetings before the deadline, and we went through over 4 months of meet and confer, public outreach. The staff has been very diligent in trying to address all the concerns that was brought up, and unfortunately, we still could not meet the March deadline. So if I could ask our Deputy City Attorney, at some point, we do need to arrive at a conclusion, one way or another, that, if we can proceed with everybody coming together, or if not, how do we say the meet and confer process is completed, because it's not meet and concur, it's meet and confer. So do we have a point legally that we can say we met that threshold? Are there any other other steps that we can take as a commission to proceed without meeting this meet and confer agreement, moving forward to the November deadline? Because we've already missed one deadline, and I'm definitely not willing to miss the November one.
Chair Lee, if I can elaborate on your point. One of the things that as I understand meet and confer, is that both parties need to meet and confer, quote, in good faith. And one way of measuring it, in my opinion, of good faith is whether or not both parties are coming to the table with proposals of what they want to see done. If one side is only proposing things they don't want done and trying to, in effect, delay action by raising issues but not offering alternative proposals, it seems to me that the in good faith provision might come into play. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted the list of what staff has proposed compared to our partners, because my sense is that all of the adjustments and changes have come from staff responding to complaints about what was in our proposal, as opposed to actual proposals to improve transparency and accountability, which is the entire point of the gift legislation. So I raise that as a significant and serious issue for our consideration.
Thank you, Commissioner Bush. If I may ask our city attorney to walk us through, but specifically to give your legal opinion on what can and cannot be disclosed by this commission and the members of the commission. And the second thing, which is more timely, is are there any legal options that we can look at beyond what we've gone through the last few months?
Good morning, Commissioners. Deputy City Attorney Andrew Shen. Good to see you all in person. Good to see Commissioner Bush virtually, I suppose. I think you raised a few different issues. Let me just try to briefly go through them. First of all, I can confirm the deadline that Michael Canny shared with you in terms of reaching the November ballot or submitting the measure to the November ballot. The deadline would be Friday, August 5th. As you know, we have been doing a meet and confer for a number of months. I think the Ethics Commission should have reason to be optimistic that meet and confer can be completed by August 5th. That is a fair number of weeks and months away, and I believe those discussions are continuing. As we've discussed on a few occasions, the actual substance of what is exchanged at meet and confer sessions is considered confidential. Ensuring those in a non-confidential manner or publicly disclosing those discussions can constitute unfair labor practice. However, I'm happy to reach out to DHR and to see what can be confidentially provided, at least to the commissioners, about the current status of any proposals that have been shared at those meetings. I'm happy to make that outreach to them and see what can be shared with the commissioners if you want to explore that further. Lastly, I can also say that, and I don't mean to suggest that this is imminent by any means, but there is an option under state law where a meet and confer is, if it's ultimately not successful, there is the possibility of either party to the discussions to declare an impasse. If an impasse is declared, that does require further steps. It's not a sort of a sudden Band-Aid for any sort of lingering issues. It does require contacting a mediator, using the mediator services, additional fact-finding, additional procedures and time. So that is a possibility. I don't mean to suggest that's at all imminent. Obviously, the meet and confer discussions are ongoing. But that is one path potentially that we could take in the future.
Thank you very much, Deputy City Attorney. Any questions from?
Yeah, I just had a couple questions about, so the impasse process, right? It's long, right? It's impasse mediator and then potential litigation if the losing party is unhappy with the mediation process, correct?
Yeah, Commissioner Morano, that is correct. Impasse can take a number of months. And obviously, if someone feels that those impasse procedures have been not appropriately followed, there's also the possibility of litigation.
That could extend well beyond August.
Correct. Litigation can often consume months and years.
Got it.
Commissioner Bush, do you have any questions for the City Attorney? I cannot see you. Can you see him? Did he raise his? I cannot see Commissioner Bush.
I believe he's trying to unmute himself.
Commissioner Bush, do you have any comments? Because I cannot see your hand. No?
What happened to me? I lost everything.
Did you hear City Attorney Shen's comments?
I did.
Okay. Do you have any questions for him?
Yes. Can he tell us how he would define negotiating in good faith?
Commissioner Bush, I don't believe there's any bright line test for what constitutes good faith. Obviously, the fact that we're continuing the discussion, sharing ideas, and hopefully to reach some sort of middle position or acceptable position to all parties are things that we would look at. But I don't think there is any bright line test.
Okay.
Commissioner Romano?
So I don't know if even I can ask this question, so I'm going to ask you if I can ask the question, and then we'll see. Am I allowed to ask in public whether or not the recommendations that are suggested for today would address all of the concerns from the other side?
Commissioner Romano, I don't think I could answer that question.
Whether or not even I can answer that, even if I can ask that question.
Whether
I want to ask,
Sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to ask our staff who have been involved in the meet and confer, may I ask that question, or is that confidential information?
I think it would be confidential.
Okay.
I think Mr. Canny has been more directly involved in the discussions, but I think it would be confidential to publicly report at least. We always have the option of doing a closed session, but at least to publicly report the exact proposals and what we think, whether we think those proposals would be acceptable to the other side.
Then I won't ask.
All right. Thank you very much.
I cannot see Commissioner Bush. Cannot see him. Commissioner Bush, do you have any more questions for the City Attorney?
If the city attorney would provide some information for us on where these rules about confidentiality come from. If it's a state law, what is the specific state law? I don't think it's a city law, but maybe it is. It seems to me that this comes in conflict with our mission, which is transparency and public access. So that if we are unable to discuss with the public what it is that's held up our being able to act on the June ballot and puts at risk what happens in November, that the public is entitled to know what our the obstacles other than a generalized meet and confer process.
If I could respond?
Yes, please.
Yeah, sure. To Commissioner Bush, through the chair, yes, I can certainly try to follow up with that information for the commission. And as I already promised, I will also try to follow up with the commission after consulting with DHR to see what I could share confidentially regarding the proposals that have been shared to date.
And the basis for the rules in the law.
Certainly, Commissioner Bush, I understand as much as possible. I will provide you the legal citations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, if there's no more questions, thank you, Deputy City Attorney Shen. Let's go to public comments, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're checking to see if there are callers in the queue. For members of the public who have joined us remotely, and if you joined the meeting earlier to listen to the proceedings, now is the time to get in line to speak. If you have not already, please press *3 to raise your hand. It's important that you press *3 only once to enter the queue, as pressing it again will move you out of the public comment line and back into listening mode. Once you are in the queue and standing by, the system will prompt you when it's your turn to speak, so it's important that you call from a quiet location. We also ask that you please address your comments to the commission as a whole and not to individual members. Please stand by. Madam Chair, we have 2 callers in the queue. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Hello again, Commissioners. This is Sean McMorris with California Common Cause. I know that you received our letter, but I'll go ahead and read it now just for the benefit of the public, so it's on the record. Dear Commissioners, California Common Cause thanks the Commission and its staff for considering the amendments to your proposed ballot measure that are in today's agenda, specifically the focusing of liability solely on gift receivers and removing liability from gift givers. We believe that this amendment will better focus the responsibility of compliance on those who are most familiar with the law, while also preventing unintentional offenses by otherwise good actors who may not have the wherewithal to digest and retain complicated law. We do not believe that placing sole liability upon the gift receiver, with exceptions of lobbyists and permit consultants, will diminish the effectiveness of the law, but potentially improve upon it by making clear where responsibilities lie and focusing city resources where they can have the greatest impact. For these reasons, we support the proposed amendments and item number 6 on today's San Francisco Ethics Commission agenda. Furthermore, with the adoption of these amendments and upon review of the final draft language, California Common Cause looks forward to fully supporting these much-needed reforms to San Francisco's ethics laws. Thank you, Commissioners and Commission staff, for your dedicated and hard work on this very important legislation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please stand by. All right, Madam Chair, we have 1 more caller in the queue. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Ralph Remington. I'm Director of Cultural Affairs for the San Francisco Arts Commission. I think that without looking at all of your proposals for the ballot measure through a racial equity lens, it's a naked and raw exercise in white supremacy. And so I believe that you need to examine that and take a hard look at it. I also believe the focus should be on bribery. The past conversation about tickets are a sideshow and wholly not germane to the issues. No one has been arrested or accused for misusing tickets inappropriately. This is a solution in search of a problem. Leave it alone and allow us to do our business. 2 comp tickets are industry standards. It's the industry standard, as well as promoting a healthy family life for our employees who have to do this work after regular business hours. The work of arts evaluation and analysis is not unlike being an athletic scout. Yes, you get to see some games. Yes, some you enjoy, some you don't. But keep in mind, when we attend these events, we attend as professionals carrying out our assignments, not as casual observers out for a night of entertainment. The ballot measure as written will have a harmful impact on historically marginalized and disenfranchised communities. It will result in huge racial disparities by limiting government access to those institutions. Just by way of example, that greeting cards conversation demonstrated a particular level of ridiculousness in my humble opinion. And it doesn't aid what you're seeking. What you're seeking is good government, and what we're all seeking. And what I think is happening is a witch hunt. And it feels like, to Commissioner Bush's good faith comment, it feels like this is not an exercise in good faith, that there's an assumption that we're out to do wrong. And I think you need to examine that if we're going to make any progress. Thank you.
Thank you.
Please stand by. We have one more caller in the queue. Welcome, caller. Your 3 minutes begins now.
Hi, Commissioners. This is Debbie Lerman at Human Services Network. We appreciate the proposed amendments to eliminate liability for members of the public, which would still allow enforcement of bribery laws. But the changes still don't fully address our concerns. We still believe the measure goes too far in prohibiting gifts that don't rise to the level of corruption and its overly broad definition of restricted sources. Our biggest concern continues to be the limits on comp tickets to nonprofit fundraisers. The draft measure would allow comp tickets only when attendance is a necessary part of the job. We've heard comments by commissioners and officials that make a clear case for attendance at events like art exhibits and performances, but it's unclear whether this standard would recognize the benefits to both the city and community-based organizations of having public officials attend events held by San Francisco Health and Human Service nonprofits. By participating in these events, public officials provide a crucial function in supporting private fundraising efforts by frontline service providers. Historically, city policy has been to underfund these contracts and expect nonprofits to secure additional funding. Right now, we're facing a recruitment and retention crisis that threatens nonprofits' ability to meet their contractual outcomes or take on new programs, and that is driven by the inability to pay competitive wages. The situation is unsustainable, and it requires both more city funding and more city support for our private fundraising efforts. The attendance at these events allows public officials to learn more about the programs they fund or learn about new organizations that they could be funding, including both large organizations that have to raise millions of dollars and small CBOs who are struggling for access to city contracts. Some speakers have assumed that public officials or the city would just pay for these tickets to these events, but the city funds hundreds of nonprofits, and it's extremely unlikely officials would attend many of these events without comp tickets. We're also skeptical that mere attendance at an event would influence an official's decision around awarding contracts. Those decisions are subject to extensive RFP and review processes. We urge you to adopt language that allows attendance at these events and recognizes that they are a necessary part of public officials' jobs. Secondly, even without liability, this law would have chilling impacts on the relationships between public officials and members of the public and threaten the reputation of the person who offers or gives a gift. The measure goes far beyond what's necessary to address potential corruption. We are troubled at the broad definition of restricted sources, even without liability. The mere expression of policy...
Your 3 minutes has expired.
Thank you. Do we have any more callers on the queue?
Please stand by. Madam Chair, there's no further callers in the queue.
Okay. public comment on agenda item number 6 is closed. Let us proceed on the vote on the motion made by Commissioner Chiu, seconded by Commissioner Romano, which directs the Ethics Commission staff to continue its ongoing meet and confer activities with the city partners, including the DHR, as well as continued engagement and outreach with our stakeholders and other interested persons. Roll call, please.
But, can we comment before roll call?
Comment? I thought we, okay.
Okay.
I'd just like to point out that the action by the staff to come up with proposals follows felony charges against 12 city officials or those seeking action by the city. So it's not creating a response to a non-existent situation. But we have a very compelling case of criminal charges pending in the courts involving senior city officials. Not all of them, but some of them are senior city officials. And so our actions are designed to address what emerged in that process. And that what emerged did include gifts and private arrangements that took place that provided a benefit, if not to the person, to the organization. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's proceed to roll call, please.
Commissioner Bush,
Aye.
Commissioner Chu,
Aye.
Chair Lee,
Aye.
Commissioner Romano.
Aye.
Madam Chair, with 4 members present and voting, you have 4 votes in the affirmative and 0 votes opposed. The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you, and thank you all, my fellow commissioners. We now proceed to agenda item number 7, which is discussion of Executive Director's report and update of various programmatic and operational highlights of the Ethics Commission staff activities since the Commission's previous meeting. Director Palin, please.
Thank you, Chair Lee. This month's report is fairly brief and straightforward. You know that we are all resuming our on-site public hybrid meetings here in City Hall. So as others have remarked today, it is really wonderful to see colleagues live and in person. And so we are very appreciative of your coordination and cooperation with this new hybrid process and with our city partners at SF.gov.tv, Department of Technology, and of course the public for engaging us online and also now availably back here at City Hall. So we look forward to seeing folks at their convenience, but welcome their participation either way. We are in the middle, as you know, of our annual Statement of Economic Interest filing process. Throughout California, public officials are required to file their annual disclosure statements to help avoid conflicts of interest and to provide transparency about the interests that we hold that could potentially be affected by the work that we do. And so this year, you'll recall that we have a new online filing process for all of the city's designated filers who are designated by their departments under the law in their conflicts of interest code for their departments. We at present, I think we are just about over the 50% mark with over 2,500 filers, and we have 2 weeks to go, so we are working in our office and with filing officials throughout city departments to make sure that folks have the information that they need. Yesterday was a banner day for us. Our engagement and compliance team who were working on this had the 3rd information session this season, and there were over 150 participants. And so these are remote sessions, but we're up almost to 300 people who have participated in one of our information sessions. We're very much looking forward to getting feedback good, bad, or otherwise, about how people found it so we can continue to improve these sessions. But we were really delighted to see that we're reaching out and making a difference, hopefully, to this very important filing season. I did want to also mention, in terms of job opportunities with the Commission, that we are continuing to receive applications for our Ethics at Work unit that we're putting together. We did just this last week post an additional position, 2 positions for that, who would be training and outreach specialists that will be working with the manager of that new program. We're hoping that we'll, in the next day or so, also have the training technology specialist. So the whole round of announcements for these positions and what the unit looks like will be obvious to folks who are interested in these positions and this type of work and coming to work for the Ethics Commission. So we encourage people to continue to look at that and see where their skills might be a match and their passions might be a match. We're very interested to get the program up and running. And then finally, staff news. I also noted in the report that we have a new senior investigator that I'm delighted to announce, Eamon Wilson, who has been with our office for just over a year, just coming up on a year. He's been an investigator, and he is now going to be one of our senior investigators. He previously served with the California Auditor's Office, where he did a number of complex analytical projects on performance audits throughout the state of California on state operations and programs. We also have news to announce today. It wasn't timely for the report, for my written report, but we have now confirmed that we are having a second senior investigator who will also be joining us on April the 5th, I believe. Ashley Mockett will be joining us. She also comes from the California Auditor's Office, where she also has done some very interesting complex research over the past several years for that office. So we want to thank the California Auditor for the fine training they've been providing, and we're delighted to be looking forward to welcoming Ashley to our staff this next month as well. I do want to note, and regrettably, Corey Ordonez, who has been a senior investigator since last October, decided that he wanted to resume work back at the state or federal level. So he did stay with us for a number of months, but his last day was March 11th. So we do thank him for his service, but I wanted to make sure you were aware of that as well. So we'll continue to work very closely with our colleagues at the Department of Human Resources to hire and fill these positions as quickly as possible. But that's my report for this month. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, and the job well done. It's great to hear about the participation rate going up all the time. Thank you. Commissioners, any comments?
Director Pelham, just wanted to congratulate you on the successful launch of the e-filing for the Form 700. I know that has been a very long and arduous process, not made any easier by the pandemic, but please give my heartfelt thanks to Stephen Massey and his incredible team. And what a testament that you had so many people participate in the information sessions. And I think this is going to be just make much more information and data available to the public, and I think that is absolutely the work of the Commission writ large, and so kudos.
I agree. It's a great accomplishment, and thank you for all your hard work.
Commissioner Bush, do you want to make any comments?
Yes, I would also underscore that Commissioner Pelham or Director Pelham has had to juggle a ever-increasing array of issues that we have thrust on her, and the situation has also emerged, and she has handled it well.
Hear, hear. Okay, let's go to public comments, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are checking to see if there are callers in the queue. Please stand by. Madam Chair, there's no callers in the queue.
Okay, public comment is closed for agenda item number 7. Agenda item number 8, discussion and possible action on items for future meetings. Commissioner Bush?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
I have a couple of items that I'd like to put on the calendar for a future meeting. One is on independent expenditures. I'd like to see a report, if we can get one, on independent expenditure committees focusing on otherwise prohibited donors, in other words, lobbyists and contractors who give through independent expenditure committees, including slate mailers and state committees. Those are all routes that are used as a get around to avoid both our campaign contribution limits, since independent expenditure committees can accept contributions of any amount, as well as avoid prohibited sources, because independent expenditure committees do not have prohibited sources. I understand that in general, IE committees are not regulated because they are not considered to be part of a specific committee, but we do have independent expenditure committees that exist in total either to support or oppose a specific candidate. And that raises the issue of whether the rules that apply to candidate committees might apply to independent expenditure committees that are linked to a candidate. The opinions that I've gotten from attorneys in campaign finance is that that is an area where we might have room to act. At any rate, it would be good for us to be able to report to the public exactly what it is that's going on. Also, I have a question I'd like to add. When we're doing on the gifts as the committee staff moves forward, I would like to see that we include a transparency requirement, identifying the donor, the recipient, and the amount, or involving any city approvals. And that it should include major donors, because if you go onto our pages, major developers donate to nonprofits pending approval of their projects. And I have not seen us make specific mention of the major developers and the contributions they make to nonprofits. I would like to see that the board approve gifts when it's for a city purpose and above a certain amount. So for example, the gifts that came for America's Cup, or for the Super Bowl, or for the new lighting system at City Hall, those were all arranged more or less privately by the then mayor, who then hired his own campaign consultants to be in charge of the fundraising and the operation. And I think that it would be more appropriate for those kinds of events, which do have a city purpose, to go through a board approval process. In some cases, it involved the use of city property. For example, for the America's Cup, it required making available the Marina Green to the exclusion of the traditional use by youth sports gangs, committees. I said gangs, I don't mean gangs, obviously, but youth sports clubs that had a regular season of play involved, and all of which had to be canceled. I would also point out that the issues that we've been raising on gifts are not unique to San Francisco. San Francisco was contacted by the Honolulu and Hawaii ethics commissions over what they have as aloha gifts. and other jurisdictions have contacted us about red card gifts. These are things that create questions in the public mind and which need some sort of resolution. So I would suggest that we take a look as we move forward on this with other jurisdictions and how they have handled even relatively modest things, like in the Aloha gifts in Hawaii, essentially involve peanut butter sandwiches that go to every new legislator at the time that they are sworn into office. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Chu?
Oh, yeah, through the chair. I will not be here to participate in this, but I would suggest, and I think this was contemplated for earlier in the year until events overtook us, would be a presentation from Tyler Field and his team that would demonstrate the dashboards for the new commissioners as well as the public, so to show how information can be obtained on Form 700 filings as well as campaign finance reports. The accessibility of the data, I think, is marvelous, and I think that everyone would benefit from one of those excellent presentations. And I'll tune in on SF.gov TV.
I remember that one. You made that several times, and I would ask the director to check with Mr. Field to see if we can do that next month now that we are meeting in person again.
Yeah.
So hopefully Commissioner Chu can show up in person
Yeah,
to attend this.
the visualization of the data is really powerful because you can see where the money is coming from to support a ballot measure, and it's like, oh, who knew that $8 million is coming from North Carolina, right? And only several $100,000 from California. So it's very, very informative.
And I think by then you may be able to give us an update or report on the recall that we just had, the school board recall, because I know that we've gotten a lot of interest on that one. So that could be very timely. Okay. If there's no more comments, let's go to the public comments, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For members of the public who have joined us remotely, and if you wish to provide public comment on agenda item number 8, if you have not already, please press *3 to raise your hand. It's important that you press *3 only once to enter the queue, as pressing it again will move you out of the public comment line and back into listening mode. Please stand by. Madam Chair, there are no callers in the queue.
Okay, thank you. No public comment is closed for agenda item number 8. Agenda item number 9, additional opportunity for public comment on matters not appearing on the agenda pursuant to Ethics Commission Bylaws, Article 7, Section 2.
Madam Chair, please stand by. Madam Chair, there's no callers in the queue.
Okay, thank you. Public comment is closed. Agenda item number 10, adjournment. Today's meeting is adjourned in honor of Commissioner Dana Chu.